Thank you. A very good morning to you at Pakistan Adventist College. We are happy to join you this morning in this wonderful presentation. And to begin with, I just want to thank the business department at AIIAS and the organizers from the Pakistan Adventist Seminary and College for organizing this wonderful seminar or webinar. We are grateful for all of you who have attended today, and that shows how much you are keen and interested in this particular topic area. We thank the speaker that has given us a wonderful devotional thought that basically introduces the topic that we'll be handling today. So we are presenting this to you from AIIAS. AIIAS is basically located in the Philippines. As you can see from the screen, we are about 45 kilometers away from the city of Manila, but located in a very beautiful environment with a lot of greeneries. You can see all those red roofs. All those are within the campus of AIIAS. This is where we are presenting from. It is an auditorium with a studio, and it's a beautiful place where we also hold our worship. This is the administration building, and you can see with the hills of Tagaytay stretching far beyond the sky. This is our library, which is considered to be one of the most stocked and well-managed libraries in the Philippines. And we appreciate that most of us find useful resources for study, for references from this library. This is our seminary, just like the seminary at Pakistan Adventist College. We also have a seminary here with all programs in masters, as well as in business, not in business, but in PhDs. And then we have the graduate school, where we have mainly three departments. We have business, education, and public health. The business one has both masters and PhD programs. You can learn more about AIIAS as you visit us on our website. I will go straight to our presentation for today, which I have entitled Personal Financial Security, because this is the theme that I was given. It is all about planning for a secure future. But when we look at personal finances, I want to begin by saying that it is the dream of every family to have a happy life. And that is why all of us are always concerned about security and our future. We would like to live a life free from worry and anxiety, and especially as far as finances are concerned. Financial resources should contribute to the fulfillment of this dream. And more so, we go to school and we educate our children so that they may get good jobs in future. And we also dreamt of getting good jobs, which I believe we all have, so that we can better our financial situation or our financial position and have a secure future in terms of our finances. We also tend to work very hard in our places of work and even professionally develop ourselves so that we may increase our financial status, because we believe that when we work hard, we may get that promotion, as well as, get some pay increase that goes along with it, or other benefits that go along with the positions. And that would definitely better our financial position in attempt to building a secure future. Now, I spent quite some time in the library trying to look for resources that talk about personal finances. Most of the books and references that I got actually basically teach or are books that basically teach corporate finance, and very few are there for personal finances. And as we know, for financial management courses mainly focus on organizational financial management, which includes record keeping, preparing financial reports, managing cash positions, and also payment of bills or meeting financial obligations, value creation or maximizing shareholders' wealth, investments, financing mix, dividend decisions, financial risks, and very little is actually taught about personal financial management. All these courses assume that when you learn corporate financial management, then you will be able to apply these principles that you learn to your own personal finances. So this is where the main problem is, because even in our homes, we do not adequately get enough of financial education, how to handle our finances so that we may have a secure future. So at the end of it, we end up having financial illiteracy even among the very elite. Therefore, most people are ill prepared to face the world where actually money is the answer to everything. As the wise man says in Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 19. Therefore, you find us in a position of financial insecurity. We live with anxiety and worries about finances. Will they be enough? Will we really have enough today and for the future? Will it continue to be enough for us? How much is actually enough for us? And how do I get this enough money for us? So when we talk about financial security, there are so many things that we come across. First, you think about having enough income that will be able to fund or meet your desired lifestyle. It is a state of having no financial worries. It is having enough funds to meet both current and future financial goals. It also means having a peace of mind when you think about what you need to take care of financially. It means you just have enough to take care of them, and therefore you are able to get your good sleep without any worry. It also means that you have adequate savings to meet emergencies, and you also have adequate savings enough for you to do some investments. And you also have enough to spend or to take care of you when you retire. So all this together, basically define what financial security is all about. What are some of the determinants of financial security? One is the earnings that one has. Another one is savings. Another one is expenditure and debt or debt management. But in overall, effective financial planning would bring us to a position of financial security. Therefore, I will want to address these aspects one by one, beginning with planning, then go to earnings, savings, expenditures, and debt management. Basically, I will not go so much into depth in each aspect, but my presentation is an attempt to create an appetite in you and in me so that we may be able to dig a little more in these areas and how we can manage them in order to have a financial security in our lives. So when you talk of personal financial planning, this has to do with a blueprint which guides you on where you want to go or where you want to be in terms of your personal finances. It spells out goals and financial objectives that you need to meet. It is actually a predetermined use of financial resources in order to accomplish certain goals in your lives. It also involves allocating of financial resources among various unlimited alternatives, which actually require you to spend finances on. Normally, we always hear this terminology. When we fail to plan, we are planned to fail. And therefore, if we fail to plan our finances, it means that we are building an insecure future in terms of our finances. I came across this quotation from the Testimonies, Volume 4, page 117. Ellen White says that an aimless life is a living death. That struck me a little bit. That it suggests that if we fail to plan, basically, we are pretending that we are alive, yet we are dead. I hope that by the end of this presentation, if we are in that state, I pray that God may resurrect us so that we may come up with a secure financial future. Why do financial planning? Okay. I want to begin by stating that it wasn't raining when Noah was told to build an ark. And therefore, planning begins before the actual expenditures when it comes to financial planning. So it leads you, financial planning, when you do plan, it leads you to disciplined spending. We live in a society where spending is a habit. Spending has become just part of the leisures people undertake. But when you do financial planning, you will have disciplined spending. It will enable you to prioritize goals, financial goals, without sacrificing your current needs. It will also spur you into action to achieve the desired financial goals. It will also control your income and expenditure until your next payday, because that is what you spend on. In most cases, we find that once we get the pay, it is not enough. And therefore, our pay will not sustain us up to the next payday. Most often, we will run to the finance office to get some personal advance to meet our very basic needs in the course of the month for which we have already been paid. So when we plan, we also have less dependency on debt or the advances that we get on our pay. It is also a protection against losses beyond our control, and it gives you a peace of mind that is security. When you know that you have adequately planned your finances, you will feel secure. And when you go to sleep, you don't have to worry about how you will take care of this tomorrow. So what does planning entail? When you are doing financial planning, you need to begin by analyzing your current financial position. I normally challenge people that you need to keep a record for at least 3 months consecutively of both your income and expenditure, and then try to analyze this record with a deeper insight and understanding. Assuming you are to write a life story about yourself, what story would people read out of that financial transactions, which come out of your expenditure patterns, which comes out of the incomes that you get. So in doing this, you need to involve all the stakeholders. If you're a family member and you know there are people who depend on you in terms of finances, you also need to bring them in, and because they have their own financial needs, their financial needs should also be taken into consideration. Even if it is a child, you don't have to ignore that. A few days ago, my little daughter was telling me that, my friend so-and-so has a birthday party. Oh, when is it going to be? It is going to be on Sunday. Then as a parent, you begin thinking in terms of finances, how do I get a gift for my daughter to go and give to the friend? That involves some finances, and that's why we are saying that if you are planning and trying to analyze your financial needs and situation, you need to involve the stakeholders within your household. I've already mentioned about this. At least try to keep a record and analyze both your income and expenditure for at least 3 months and try to write a story about it. Will you be happy reading it? Will others be happy reading about it? Are there areas that you'd be thinking of adjusting? Are there things that you'd be thinking of not spending on, which you need to adjust? And there are things that you're not spending on, which you need to. So that will enable you to begin establishing what we call your financial goals. So, and of course, in planning, you talk about the SMART goals, okay? Once you set up your financial goals, you will need to allocate resources or do budget to meet these specific financial goals. I'll be talking a little bit more about that in a short while. Then you have to implement that plan and take necessary actions that need to be taken in the implementation of that plan. Of course, as any other plan, you need to keep reviewing so that you continue to control the flow of both income and expenses. You need to evaluate and review whether all that you spent on again were necessary. Are there areas that you need to improve on? Are there areas that you overlooked? And with that, you perfect your plan and do it again. Now, in terms of budgeting, there are so many tools which you can use even today. You go into the internet, there are so many tools that have already been developed that you can use for budgeting. But in doing so, try to establish all the sources of your income. Do it as per month, and then you can project it for the year. So take care of all your income, and then make sure that you take care of also all the deductions which you need to do from that income, which includes taxes, which includes tithe and offerings. It may include debt repayment. It may include savings and investment. You may realize that in the screen, I have included savings as part of things that we need to lessen from our gross income before you arrive at what you call your disposable income to spend from. So savings should be planned for. We'll be talking about that also in a short while. And after that, of course, I've said that you do a resource allocation for each one of them. I may not spend so much time looking at this, but you may look at all the categories of the expenses which you need to take care of. And I will just keep on this, and we'll talk about a little bit more later. And again, your planning should include investment. There are so many vehicles of investment, and people, when you talk about investment, they have different ideas. Some would be thinking about, investing in real estate. Some would be thinking about investing in probably farming. Some would be thinking about investing in stock. And if you have to do so, again, do your good situation analysis so that you don't end up investing in insecure investment that will add to your financial difficulties or agony. I just wanted to mention that there are so many experts that you need to consult with if you are going, for example, into real estate, if you are thinking of building, if you're thinking of the stock, please consult with the stockbrokers and ensure that you get the necessary advice that is needed before you can invest. But it is important you plan investment as part of your financial security measures. In addition, as part of planning, you need to plan for your retirement. You need to begin factoring in the time of retirement. When am I supposed to retire? When I retire, what will be my income sources during the retirement? How much do I need to save towards the retirement? You need to consider where am I going to live? Where am I going to live in my retirement? If you are thinking of vacations and travel, you need to think of, will I have adequate finances to support this kind of travels, including leisure activities? And more importantly, you'd even be thinking about the medical insurance. Will I have enough to cover me when it comes to medical insurance? Because in retirement, people tend to be sick and incur a lot of medical bills. So you need to begin thinking about that as part of the planning. In addition to what I've mentioned, you also need to do what is called estate planning. This is an area where many people tend to ignore. It is a plan that you put in place to ensure that your assets are well managed in the event of any incapacitation or in the event in your death, in the event of death. So you need to think of coming up with a will. You need to think of, how will you distribute your wealth, and who will be given the powers of attorney, and a few other things. What will be the legal implications in the process, just in case you exit out of this world? And in estate planning, you also need to think about, if you are an Adventist, we normally encourage that you think about leaving part of your estate, part of your income, or part of your resources for the continuation of the mission, gospel mission. So don't only think about yourself. Think about others who also need to come to the knowledge of Jesus Christ when you are planning for your estate. Let me briefly talk about the earnings. This is where the biggest challenge is, because as you see, our earnings are normally limited in most of the time. Many of us live on this tree called employment. And that is what we expect to harvest the fruits from. And some are just, expected income, which probably may not be realized. And some of the fruits may be realized, but some may never grow to maturity. And therefore, from the financial standpoint, we stand at a path where, when we look at the finances, the dollar, there is a bridge, there is a gap to be bridged. And because we have limited resources, most often we do not have ways and means of bridging this gap. And this is what brings in financial insecurity. We need to begin thinking differently and use our God-given talents, skills, and abilities to think always outside the box. How can I better my financial position in spite of depending on this one particular tree? Our education should be able to expand our thinking beyond the box so that we are able to even get other ways and means of bridging the gap so that we may have a financial secure future. Let's briefly talk about savings as part of financial planning. It is very important for us to save. But in the first place, what is savings? You may have different definitions of it, but I want to submit here that savings is not the disposable income less your consumer expenditures. Savings is not the leftover after spending. Savings is not the interest earning that you put in short-term deposits. Savings is not delayed expenditures. And savings is not the absence of expenditures. So then, what do we consider savings to be? Savings is a deliberate process of financial planning that involves setting aside a portion of your earned income to meet your future financial goals. It has to be a deliberate process. You have to inbuild it in your planning, in your budgeting, and therefore, savings must be planned for. If it is not planned for, and you wait to keep that which remains after your expenditure, then it doesn't constitute savings. Savings has to be a portion of the earned income. So you have to be deliberate at what percentage of my income should I put aside towards savings. And savings involves the future. It has to be specific towards future financial goals. And therefore, I must say that without a plan, it is very difficult to save. Usually, as a rule of thumb, most financial advisors will suggest to you that you need to live on at least, or at the maximum, 60% or less of your monthly income. And therefore, the 30 to 40% should go towards, all your tithes and the offerings, plus the savings inbuilt in that process. And they also suggest that you need to have at least an average of 1 year into a short-term saving, which you can easily reach just in case you are out of employment. Like now, during this pandemic, many people are going out of employment. How are they going to survive? How are they going to transition into new ways of living if they did not secure their future in terms of savings for emergencies? And again, I said, when it comes to investment should be different from savings. You need to budget for it. There are many reasons and excuses why people do not save. They think that they lack a deliberate saving plan. They ignore about the future. They look at the income that they have as insufficient to meet their present needs. And the savings, basically, the reason why most people do not save is basically attitudinal, which needs to be addressed. Others suggest that it takes too much to save, and others just rely on the retirement income. They say that, okay, as far as I'm concerned, I and my employer have put aside the savings for the future. And retirement is different from the savings. I want to bring to our attention what the wise man says here in the book of Proverbs chapter 6, 7-8. He says that, go to the ant, you laggard, consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores, and I underline here, I put it in red, it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. So when we are still in active employment, when we are still having regular income, we need to be deliberate about savings. We need to store, save. Even this creature was programmed by the Creator to save. So if this creature, a little young tiny insect, is programmed to save, why not you and me, who are created in the image and likeness of God? So you need to have definite planned savings and budget for savings. Yeah, you need to be deliberate to pay yourself every payday and invest that into the future. Let me briefly talk about expenditure. If I would ask you this afternoon that you take a pen and a pencil and a piece of, or a pencil and a piece of paper and draw a pie chart, how would your expenditure pattern look like? What portion of your income, or what portion of the expense takes the greatest part of your income? I don't know, but I think you can answer that question for yourself and see how is your expenditure like. Normally, there are more ways to spend money than there is money itself or ways of getting it. And I want to say that a dollar spent today is gone forever and can never be used in the future. Good spending decision, therefore, means good stewardship. And in fact, the biggest challenge is that every spending that we make actually reflect our spiritual status, our relationship with God. Are what we are spending on giving glory and honor to God? Because we live in a consumer society where people spend not for needs, but just for wants. Because of this, you know, when you look at the Bible, 16 out of 32 parables of Jesus basically deal with money. Why should that be if Jesus did not regard highly this issue of money? And I found out that, you know, there are 500 verses on both prayer and faith in the Bible. But when you come to verses that deal with money and possessions, there are 2,600. So even the Bible itself puts a lot of emphasis as far as our money and how we handle money, our stewardship of money is all about. Somebody said that, you know, we can fake our prayers. It may be just formal. We may fake our Bible studies. Yeah, it may be just formality. We may fake our going to church. Yes, but we can never fake our our stewardship of financial resources that God has given to us. And there is nothing that reveals this more than our spending patterns or spending habits. Our spending patterns reveal that what we really believe in stewardship. So how is your spending patterns? We have talked about the income, talked about the savings. Of course, income is limited. Saving, we build it for securing the future. And also investment we do for securing the future, including the retirement. But because of our spending patterns, we may end up eating up both the income, savings, investment, and even the retirement until we end up having an insecure future when it comes to financial resources. Let's ask ourselves, do we spend to satisfy our wants or satisfy our needs? We need to come up with measures to control our expenditures. We need to set up and live by a budget. We need to replace self-indulgence with self-control as far as spending is concerned. Don't take everything that come across your way as a good deal. Nowadays, there are a lot of advertisements that come across, that pass across our eyes more or less on a daily basis. You go into the internet, the first thing you meet are advertisements. You go into the Facebook, enticing advertisement, and people keep on buying and accumulating even things that they do not need because they think it is a good deal. What you will spend on that good deal is gone forever. Recognize that God isn't behind every good deal either, and understand the difference between spending and saving. Sometimes you see them enticing you with good discounts, from 5,000 to maybe 1,000 only. Okay, you will be tempted to go and buy it because, this is a good discount. But will you have saved? That 1,000 will have gone forever. And probably you have taken it out of your savings. That is adding up to your financial difficulties. So when you are spending, also look at both the long-term and the short-term costs that are involved, especially when you are buying properties. And I usually say that even before you leave to go to the market, you need to think of, praying for God's wisdom to guide you into what you are going to spend. Then here we talk about debt. The Bible says that owe nothing to anyone except love. God is not pleased about debt. If you owe, it is very difficult to love them. Okay? The Lord of heaven, this is what Deuteronomy says, the Lord will open the heavens, the storehouse of his bounty, to bless all the work of your hands. You will lend to many nations, but will borrow from none. God does not expect his children just to live on debt. So when you think of going into debt, you need to think twice about what the Bible says. It also says that the wicked borrow and do not repay, but the righteous give generously. They are always generous and lend freely. Their children will be blessed. So you can only expect yourself to be blessed when you are able to lend than being a borrower yourself. I'll rush a little bit here because it is almost my time. So debt mentality, why should you go into debt? Is it because you believe you need more than God has given you the means to have? Is it because you believe that God doesn't know best what your needs are? Is it because you believe that God has failed to provide your needs, forcing you to take, matters into your hands and put put the lender in the place of God, we can always go to God and ask him for our need. So, is getting into debt, getting around depending on God? Is it short-circuiting the God-created means of acquisition? Does it mean you are living beyond what God has provided? Does it mean that you cannot wait for God's timing to provide for that your need? What effect will borrowing have on you and your ability to meet your current obligations, but more so, even to contribute towards God's mission in terms of tithes and free will offerings? I want to skip some of these. I know I have many good points here, but I will want to skip some of these. So how should we manage debt? Ellen White says that you need to shun debt as you should leprosy. And therefore, in case of indebtedness, she calls us unto repentance. She calls us to change our mindset of depending on debt. She calls us to incur no debts once we have repented. Therefore, we need to list every debt that we have and make payment plans, especially beginning with the least one. And as you complete paying the least ones, double your effort to pay the next debt so that you can accelerate the repayments and, if possible, liquidate even some assets so that you do not continue in debt. As much as possible, live within your income and buy on cash rather than on credit. As I come to the end, I want to submit to us that for us to have a secure financial future, one, we need to plan. We need to plan at all levels. We need to plan our income. We need to plan our investment. We need to plan our savings. We need to plan our expenditures, and we need to have a good debt management. With these few and with further discussions, I want to believe that God will help us so that we can plan for a secure financial future. Thank you very much.